Good evening and welcome to the Life Force Network. My name is Stefan Rao, and this is Speak Pro Radio, more commonly known as Tank. That's why it says Tank and Laura at the bottom there. And today is kind of a exciting day. We're going to talk about some things that I think are pressing and essential to all of humanity, and we encourage you to share this video with everyone. And my partner, in always, Laura. What's
Hello,
going on?
Mr. Rao. How are you?
I am a little excited, like overwhelmed, excited. Um, you know, the latest situation report is like a throwdown call to action for all of humanity, right? And and I'm a believer. I'm a believer in action, right? Taking action and doing things. What are your thoughts? Where do you want to get started?
Well, I think we should have a little rundown, if that's okay. Let's start off there and then we'll go with the flow. Because we usually plan this kind of stuff and then it ends up doesn't kind of work in our favor all the time. So take it away, Mr. Rao. Oh, and first of all, I'm so sorry. I do apologize that I'm not on camera today. So I will be talking like this. So you get to see this gorgeous face. So,
Yeah. So okay. So as far as breaking it down, the deep state did a lot of bad stuff. I'm sure,
mhm.
trying to destroy everything and blah blah blah. At this point, the whole deep state operation is crumbling into oblivion. Right. So all of their corporations, their governments, FEMA, everything is falling apart. So this creates a sense of urgency, and the only thing I really want to talk about is kind of these key points that were mentioned on the latest World Situation Report, which I highly recommend to anyone. You can get it on UnitedNetwork.earth. Okay, highly recommend it for anyone. It is really, really powerful. Now, it's not pointing out anything we haven't said already and talked about many times. However, the one I can't go in and break this down. I have to jump to the point. You know why? Because people remember the first thing you say and the last thing you say, right? It's called first and last theory.
Mhm.
So I want to make sure I'm clear about this. There's one thing that Kimberly Gogan says on this, the ground commander, Guardian from the Office of the Guardian. What she says, one of the things she says the enemy is not the deep state, right? That's not the enemy. It's not this evil empire. The enemy is complacency. She said something like that. Now, what I have always said is the enemy is apathy and indifference. That is the enemy. What does that mean? Okay, so apathy means you don't care, right? You just don't care enough to do anything. And because you don't care enough to do anything, things will continue to happen, right? And indifference is the same basic principle. Like you're indifferent, like, whatever happens, happens. What can I do about it, right? This kind of general mentality. Now, I've always said for years and years and years, I've said this is the problem. Here we are in a state where we can look and see that okay, I'll give you a perfect example.
Mhm.
9/11, 9/11, the 9/11, not like just the date on the calendar coming up. The
Mhm.
9/11, 2001, the towers fall, right, in New York City. The first real terrorist attack on U.S. soil, on the mainland of the U.S. soil. It allegedly, I'm saying this, all of this is absolute bullshit, right? Okay, but this is what is portrayed, right? Fear mongering on a level, on a scope you've never seen before, where for a year straight, all you would ever see is these planes crashing into the towers over and over and over. And this is programming, right? Programming you to never forget, right? That was the theme of 9/11 because all of these firemen and other people, first responders, lost their lives as well as the people that were actually taken out in the towers.
Mhm.
all these different people. So never forget the looming fear that you could be struck by anything at your office, in your desk, in your bedroom, anywhere. It could happen at any moment, right? This is the fear mongering that was controlled, right? And this event was horrifying. Now, I was directly there. I was actually living in New York City at the time when this happened. And one of the people I stayed with actually had a job working for a medical supply company, and they and they unloaded thousands I mean, like 50,000 body bags, right? And there wasn't that many people killed, right? But for every body part, they had to have a body bag. So like I was really involved. So what I did was I actually painted firemen during this time because I really wanted to like focus on the positive aspects, right?
Mm.
Trying to focus on the heroism of these firemen. I really was impressed by them. So I was there, as close to ground zero as I could get. And I was painting firemen and talking to them and selling my work and doing things like that at the time. That's what I was doing.
Mhm.
Now, it was devastating. I had friends who were in the towers who died, and I had friends who were late to work that day who lived, right? So it was this really incredible kind of like, everyone had a story about 9/11 if you lived in New York, right?
Mm.
And it was devastating and scary. And it was a different time, right? Now, this horrifying event, which completely changed everything everywhere, right? It
Yeah.
launched a whole new level of the war on terror, right? Here we are 23 years removed from that event, right?
Mhm.
And at this point, about 80% of the population, about 80% of the population is fully aware on some level, not fully aware. They believe that 9/11 was an inside job. In other words, the US government orchestrated this operation, or parties in the government
Mhm.
orchestrated an attack on US soil to justify going to war with Iraq and Afghanistan and whatever else, right?
Mhm.
And there's a much more in-depth story. Actually, Kim Gogan did an incredible interview with this guy from the deep state who we refer to as the Viking, who was part of
The who, sorry?
the
You cut out.
Viking, the
Oh, the
Viking,
Viking. Mhm.
right? And the Viking was actually part of the think tank called the Pythagoreans, who actually were part of designing this 9/11 type event, right? Um, and he talked about how it was actually done, right? How it was actually this, there was actually this strike from like this satellite, like a Star Wars satellite that crushes the towers. We actually had the footage to show exactly what happened, right? It was really incredible, right? It
Mm.
gave you a lot of insight that you never would have thought of. On top of the fact that there is now, this is fact, okay? This is an absolute fact. Grand juries have been formed around 9/11 to press criminal charges against the head of the FBI from this. And there's a huge lawsuit against the FBI as well. And I think some other aspects of the government that is at the second highest court in the United States, meaning they have won every step of the way to be able to admit something like 57 pieces of evidence to show proof that all these different agencies and government organizations were directly involved in the planning and the attack of the 9/11 towers, the fall of the towers, right? And the Pentagon. It's and the proof, the evidence to be submitted on such a high level has to be so absolute. It's such absolute evidence, right? I'm not talking about just testimonies. I'm talking about actual evidence that show this is, U.S. planning. This is U.S. material. This is the hours people were there. This is the log. Very, very thorough pieces of evidence to prove that 9/11 was an inside job. That's kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah.
But you know why it's not a big deal? Because at this point, 20 years removed, everyone just kind of says, what are you going to do? Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It's an inside job, right? These are people who are not necessarily directly impacted by it, right? Because a lot of
Mhm.
people, it was like something they watched on TV, right? But I lived there. I had friends die in the towers, right? Like I was there actively part of the energy and the participation in this, right? So, and I know this, even New Yorkers though, it's just an attitude of indifference. Indifference, like, okay, what are you going to do? Like, doesn't surprise me. I always knew that guy was corrupt. I always knew George Bush was corrupt. I always knew Obama was corrupt. The Clintons are evil. But no one does anything, right? No one does anything to actually change it. This is the enemy. Yes, go ahead.
One of my questions was, how do you change it?
Oh my gosh, that is one of my questions too. Like, we can talk about this in a million different ways, but let's start by first, let's use, some intelligence here. Let's identify the enemy. Is the enemy these horrible forces that have suppressed us, depressed us, and oppressed us? On some level, yes, they're not our friends, for sure. For sure. However, the real enemy that we have to fight against is apathy and indifference. Because these horrible things happen and we do nothing. Now, in times past, in everyone's defense, the whole world was 79% dark. Every person, just to survive, had to be 79% dark, right? There had to be some level. And we were enslaved. Not just that, our food has been poisoned. Our water has been poisoned. Our air has been poisoned. Our minds have been poisoned. Our relationships, our media, our ability to communicate, and more importantly, our ability to be informed about what is real and what is not. So here is the fact. Now, the way that things work, say you had a vote, right? So we have a collective. Now, the idea is, well, people will never make a good decision, right? People make bad decisions. Well, informed people actually at least have the faculties to make intelligent decisions. And if we that's the number one first step. You have to inform people, and I mean this in a very literal sense, the inner formation of knowledge and wisdom, right? Because you can know something. That's the problem, right? We had this deep state knowledge. Okay, we all know this happened. We saw what happened. We know something. We think we know something. But wisdom is the judicious application of knowledge. So if you know better, you do better, right? And the problem is people don't know what they're doing. They don't know what the circumstances are, right? They don't realize all the details because they're not being informed. Why? Now, why? In parts. The first part, we have bad information. Because the organizations that have been allowed to have the most money, to thrive on the highest levels, have been able to orchestrate and evade actually telling the truth about virtually anything. So this was talked about in the Situation Report about how labels in food don't really tell you what's in the food. They don't tell you what's actually in the food, what's actually there. So you, trying to be an informed consumer, you go and you read a label and you're like, okay, these 6 ingredients, these are healthy, these are good for me, right? But then you don't get the results from eating that good food that you would expect to by eating that good food. Why? Because there's other things being put in that food because it's poisoned. But we let it happen. We allowed it to get here, right? On some level, we have elected officials. Now, are they really selected? Yes. And this is where I get a little bit of a conflict, right? I used to kind of get on people like, look, the government draws its power from the governed, right? The government only has power because we give it to them. And the most powerful thing is when you have people, an informed population. That's what the government doesn't want. That's what nobody in the deep state wants. You don't want people informed. That's why you have fear-mongering alternative media that is out there, and they are pushing things that are pressing. Some of them are true, and some of them are not. And what happens is more confusion, more ridiculousness. So no one knows what to do. And you don't have a stable authority to say, this is what's real, right? This is what's true. This is from on the ground. This is what's happening in real life, right? And that is what it is, the most important thing to have.
Mm.
You need real information. Now, how do you get that? Well, you get real information from real people doing real things. And that requires you not to be apathetic or indifferent. That requires us to take action on some level and figure out ways to do things in a better way and then share what we're doing with other people. And then when more and more people are informed in a better way, where the knowledge and the wisdom becomes part of their being, they'll make better decisions. That's one. That's the biggest obstacle that I'm constantly looking at. How do I overcome that? How do I get a message out to touch the hearts and minds of the masses so that we can stand together in a place of wisdom, in knowledge, in truth, in justice, in integrity, in love? How do you get that to penetrate? Well, that comes by one person sharing a message and then another person sharing it and another person sharing it and then asking, put this out to other people and let's come together into the same collective space, right? I used to talk about this as we are a sovereign collective. Whether you like it or not, you are dependent on someone else to do something so that you can survive. You're wearing clothes somebody put together. You're eating food that somebody farmed, right? You
Mhm.
everything we're doing, like you're probably sitting at a table or a desk or a chair or a couch that somebody built. And that's fine. That's fine. We all play a part. We all play a part. We are interdependent on one another. We are and that can be a very positive thing if it's not being manipulated and used against us, right?
Mhm.
So, anyways, back on target. So we, what's that? So we've got the, so you've got this whole idea, right?
Mhm.
That's talking about of what's the enemy? That's the enemy, apathy and indifference. So how do we overcome this? And I'll talk about this. I thought this was really powerful. I spoke to a fire chief this week, right?
Mhm.
The fireman in the area where I was that day, and he was telling me how like he was a really informed fire chief, and he actually had he specializes in the medical aspect of the firemen,
Mhm.
and not just medical, but he's a holistic practitioner, right?
Oh.
So really, just a great, fun guy to talk to. Like we have a
Mm.
lot in common. So, anyways, it came time during the you know thing to be vaccinated for all the firemen. They were all going to be forced to be vaccinated.
Mm.
So what they did is they all of them collectively, on the same day within the same hour, all stood and said, "No, we'll leave." And they all submitted their resignation papers simultaneously. So
Wow.
imagine overnight the power these men had, right? Men and women, I'm sure, to stand together, right? And firemen are like, it's kind of a fraternal brotherhood, right? I mean, nobody really doesn't like firemen for the most part, right? So
Mm.
and they really stood together, and you know what happened? They weren't forced to do anything because the authorities only had power if the firemen submitted to that power. So the firemen stood up together, right? And I love firemen as a rule. I actually did a whole series of paintings on firemen during 9/11, right?
Mhm.
So I thought it was appropriate to mention, right? And this is just this week. He was telling me this. Like, no, they all stood together. And you know what happened? They're still firemen. And every one of their resignation papers were pulled back, and not one of them had to be vaccinated. And I
Wow.
went, right.
That's
And
awesome.
you'd think, well, that's firemen. They're heroes by nature, right? Nope. Because I'm saying both these things happened this week. I spoke to a contractor for a building supply company in Florida, right?
Mhm.
A building supply company. And what happened? Every one of their account managers, senior managers, simultaneously did the exact same thing during the pandemic. They all submitted their resignation within an hour of each other. And what happened? Not one of them was forced to do it. Where other companies were saying, we're forcing, you have to get this, you must, or you're going to be fired, right? Which was always against the law. It was always against the
Mhm.
law. But what did they do? No, that company would have gone out of business that day. They would have
Wow.
lost 80% of their workforce in one day. A company cannot stay in business if they lose 80% of their workforce in one day.
Mm.
So, so how do you stand up to change things? Well, you stand together. When you stand together, the the minuscule powers that happen to be sitting in on thrones or whatever power you think they have over you, they immediately lose their power. Immediately, right?
Mhm.
So the problem is we're arguing over dumb shit like, excuse me, dumb things like we don't know what gender a kid is, right? We're putting our energy into something like that. Arguing about what is the gender of a child who has a child before they hit puberty who has no sexual desire whatsoever. How would you even know? Oh, I know how. The same way they've always known, based on the equipment they were given by God, right? But yet we are literally, this is the type of thing we spend our time with, right? It is a magic trick. What they do is they get you to focus on things that don't matter so that becomes the issue, right? Do you remember? I don't know if this happened in Australia, but here in the United States,
Mm.
there was a while where like every politician was running on the ticket of gay marriage. Like, we're going to make sure that gays can get married. This is the biggest issue ever. Absolutely. That's where I stand. Gay marriage. And to be quite honest, I could care less if the gays can go for it. That they were doing this while they were poisoning the food with GMOs in mass. They were putting poisonous fluoride into the water, and they were poisoning our entire medical system. This is all this real stuff. They're poisoning the air with geoengineering, right? Chemtrails, right? To to hurt us, make us sick all the time. They were lying to us constantly, feeding us against each other, trying to get us to fight one another about all of this was happening. And the issue was gay marriage. Was that really an issue? Like, you know what? Let it run. Go ahead, get married. Who cares? Why is that even? Why would the government even control that? Who you want to spend your life with is your decision. Go spend it with whoever you want. Right? Marriage is just a
Mm.
license from the government. You don't even need that. You live together with the same person for long enough. It's actually called common law marriage. What happens is they end up. You can put anyone who's been in your house for 8 years on your insurance. What's the benefit? Who cares? The point is inform people about things that actually matter, right? But instead, you make something matter that doesn't, right? That's the key to the whole deep state. This is their whole MO. So now we're in a different world, right? Because now you can learn stuff. You can get a hold of really powerful information. And to be honest, most people do. Now it's normal to question. It's
Mm.
normal to think like that Biden's wearing a mask or, Trump might be, off, he might be dead. Yeah, it's normal to ask questions. It's normal
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah, I encourage people to always do that. Because no matter what that person's saying, or, you can either learn from it or you could be teaching them. Either way. So I'm like, for me, I'm like, you have to always be, saying, hang on a second, what does this mean? You got to ask questions. Because the reason why we got in this mess was because we just went, yeah, okay, that sounds good. I'm going to trust the government. I'm going to trust this. I'm going to trust that. Like, that's the reality, you know? Because, like, you've been, I guess you could say, in this for a few years. But some people are just waking up now, or some people just woke up, in 2020 when everything went down. So, you know, some people now are just waking up. So this is where I'm like, oh, I don't like to say waking up, but this, you get what I mean. Anyway, so yeah, continue, Mr. Al.
Yeah. So now Gogan is bringing up some really good points, and I do think they deserve to be repeated and considered carefully. And I mean this. I mean care fully about what I'm about to tell you. This is one of the things I would always tell my kids: listen carefully. I listen to people carefully. I care fully about what they're saying. And that is what proper listening looks like. And when you do that, you can change anything, to be quite honest. Because when you
Yeah.
really listen and care about what somebody's saying or what's being said, if you're listening to the energy, you're listening to the frequency, you're listening to the world and the energy of the people, and you actually care, then people, might actually listen to you because they know how much you care, right?
Mm.
So that being said, she talked about these industries, right? And the question is now you're going to have potentially a collapse of these industries because they cannot get the deep state money they've used to run these massive operations of excessive spending and advertising and just nonstop, nonstop excess, like always pounding you over and over again because they had so much extra money, right?
Mm.
Everything would be overpriced, everything would be overcharged, and they had access to funds that we did not, right? So these industries, they represent key components that we have become dependent on, right? For example, like Walmart. Do you know if Walmart went out of business tomorrow,
And
that it
Walmart is
would
a
be
shopping center, right? Just in case for people that don't understand, don't know what Walmart
sorry,
is.
yeah. So Walmart is a superstore. I mean, it's a horrible superstore, by the way. It puts a lot of little stores out of business, right?
Hmm.
And I'm not a fan of Walmart by any means.
Hmm.
However, I still shop there, right? Because they have the best prices, right? So, when you're on a budget, Walmart's great. Now, you go to Walmart any time of year, any time of day in some places. Oftentimes, Walmart's are 24/7. And you can get bagfuls of tomatoes in the middle of the winter. You can get bananas any time of year. You can get fresh fruits and vegetables any time of year right at Walmart, right? We're so used to that. There's fresh meat. Most people don't know where that meat's coming from.
No,
Most people don't know that. Most people don't know where those vegetables are coming from,
no.
right? Farmers have been under attack for a long time, but yet we still have this produce. We
Hmm.
still have meat. We still have clothes. Like, all of this comes from an actual supply chain. So if the deep state starts taking out these supply chains, what will you do then? What do you do? Because you know how many people would die? It would be a form of genocide if Walmart closed all their doors. If all of Walmart closed, because so many people, I'm telling you, people would die off because they're so dependent. Well, maybe that's extreme. No,
Really? I don't
I
think
think
so.
so.
Because,
I
like,
do think so.
well,
I don't think people would know where to go.
well,
If all,
no. Like, okay, if the option's not there, see, this is the thing that I'm like, if the option's not there anymore, you're going to naturally find another option. You're going to go find a solution because that's what's in our nature. When we need to find
okay.
something, what are we going to do? We're going to find it. So therefore, like, I remember we just moved here, and I agreed going, I don't like shopping here. And then also, yeah, the prices are great. But then I thought to myself, wait, there's got to be something else. And I remember speaking to someone and they were like, wait, I saw something on TikTok. And on TikTok, there's this farmer's market there. Just type in your area and put farmer's market. Here, I'll show you. And they sent it to me. And then we went and we tried it out. And then it was, I don't know if it's just the time we went, but it wasn't the best. But it was an option. There was a bunch of different farm, you know, different stores there that you could go to. But then you were out working, and then you called me, and you're like, "There's this amazing place that it's like a farmer's market, you know," and then it had amazing food in there. You could tell, like, one thing I always say, wherever you're going, check the meat. If the meat looks beautiful and it's red, and you know what I mean when it's a good meat or it's not a good meat, it was
Yeah.
just beautiful. And then the prices were actually really good, because they were organic. And I was like, wow, okay, this is great. There are options out there. I don't know. I don't agree with you there because I think,
I think you okay. Maybe my example was too extreme. Okay, I'm
well, I
saying
think, I think,
people are. I'm just my point is that people are dependent even on this. What you didn't talk about just now is and then we went hunting together, right? And we got our own meat. Remember that day? Remember when we went and picked our own vegetables that we grew ourselves from scratch? That was an amazing. Remember that because that was the option because we didn't want to go to Walmart, so we just grew our own tomatoes that day. And We had
Hey.
tomatoes all year round, and then we went hunting. It was great. We didn't do that, right? We did not do that, right? So,
Well, I think you're making a good point, is that that's something that a lot of people do think. The way you just said it, I think many people, that's the first reaction. Well, if it goes down, what are we going to do? We're all going to die. And it's like, well, no. That's our initial reaction. That's our, you know, I remember the other day, there was a situation and I heard a little voice say to me, take the emotion out of it, and then you'll be able to see with clarity. And I was like, okay, so I had to take the emotion out of it, and I really
mhm.
did see with clarity. And so that's what happens. The initial reaction with, we're emotional, we're triggered, where something's happening. Just breathe. And then just, okay, I breathe with ease, and then ask. So when that happened, it just flowed, because you were able to hear. Because what happens is, when we're in that state that you just said, and I think a lot of people do go into that, that's the first reaction. Just take a step, and there are solutions out there. You know that, and that's just food. I started
Oh,
thinking about water. Yeah.
yeah, go ahead. About water. Talk
I
about that.
started I started thinking about water. I was like, okay, if this all happens, my first thoughts were, okay, what do I do? And I'm like, okay, if I'm not like, I'm a little bit like, where does water come from? The tap. It's like, what do you do? And then I thought, okay, I can't drink that water. Okay, we buy water. I was like, wait, but then everyone's going to be buying water. And then I just thought, okay, if I'm in, really, really bad in the desert, what would I do? Okay, you've got the options of drinking, like they call it golden therapy. That's just not my thing. It just is.
That's not
It's,
my thing. That's not my thing. Gotta get down like
but
that. Gotta get down like that. Yeah.
but yeah, so I thought about that and I was like, hey, wait. I remember there's a humidity. It's one of those things that that
A
guy from.
dehumidifier.
Thank you. I started thinking, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to buy that. And then, or something, I started thinking there's got to be something out there that I can buy that turns air to water, which then I remembered, who we were working with before, and how he does that. And I thought, okay, but there's got to be another way. So we just have to go back to the times of like relying on each other, in my opinion, and also doing your own researching, like research it and find out, because a lot of people like me, they just think the water comes out of the tap. What do we
Okay.
do? They go into panic
All
mode.
right. And you're absolutely right. Look, we talked about this years ago. What are the essentials? Food, water, air, each other, right? Shelter.
Mm,
Like these are key components: food, water, air, and each other. You need each other, right? You need shelter. Like
mm,
these are essential things that you need to survive, right?
mhm.
Now, if we focused on those things, who would run on that campaign? Who would be the president if people actually cared about real issues like that, right? Because those are real issues. But
Mhm,
people think there's a never-ending supply of these things. They come from a magic fairy of whatever, right? Now, the actual fact of the matter is, Gogan was bringing up some very real concerns, right? We need to find ways to keep the lights on, literally keep the lights on, right? Because if the cabal took out all the power transistors or whatever, the
mhm,
power grid, you know, what would we do, right? Do you want to spend the next 2 years in darkness while we, access other, alternative
S
sources of energy? Those alternative sources of energy do exist. They do exist, but they're not existing currently in mass production. Do we have access to the land that we would need to mine the necessary elements and components to make those things? And do we
mhm,
have the security from the actual mine to the store, right?
mhm,
From the mine or the land to the market, so to speak,
mhm,
to keep those things safe.
mhm,
Now, this is not to make people scared. This is to get people to start to consider, what can I do now,
mhm,
even to support local farmers, right? Or, I mean, we always kind of go back to local farmers 'cause that's one we can all kind of relate to.
mhm.
Like, there's local farms, right? There's probably a local farm near you that you could get to.
Yeah.
And, it might cost you an extra $5 in gas, but you can probably get to that farm and see if you could find a way to, you know, get fresh eggs. The
Mhm,
fireman, his house, I was at his house, and he had chickens in the back, and I think he had a goat actually. I think he was actually milk.
mhm.
I think they milked the goat and they got eggs from the chicken. right? And they had like 5 or 6 chickens back there, right? And like, you know, wasn't a place you wanted to hang out, but the chickens were actually really well behaved. They had a little place where they drank water that was always running, and they just kind of clucking around the yard, right? It was
But okay.
nice.
No, I think that's great, and I think those are solutions, and I think that's why not everyone's going to be able to have chickens in their backyard. We have an apartment. You try having chickens here with with our baby. We'll see how that
Yeah,
goes down.
yeah, they wouldn't last long there with Zasha the chicken hunter for sure.
He wouldn't hunt them. He would play with them and then accidentally hurt them, and he didn't mean
Yeah,
to. He's
accidentally
such
hurt
a
them.
angel
Yeah,
because he
my
really
dog
is.
is a dragonfly assassin, right? Dragonflies will
Tell
come
me
by, and he's just trying to play with them. He's just trying to play with them,
he
but
is.
he will jump up and take them out. There's
He
also
just
like there's also beavers here in the water, right? And, and when he sees the beavers, like he just goes crazy. Like I think he just wants to play with them. I don't think you actually
he
hurt them,
does.
but beavers they don't play with dogs. Yeah,
Yes. So, anyways, continue, Mr. Rao. He had chickens in the backyard.
yeah.
And
So
this
I'm
is
just saying. But you're right though. There's a whole other component, right? Like
mm,
this isn't normal, right? So you got to normalize things, I guess, on some level where, okay, like that's a partial solution, right? Like, hey, we can have more chickens, right?
mhm.
Like, chickens are very, they're great. They manufacture their own food for you, right? It's like you get fresh eggs every day. Like chicken lays 1 egg, you get 12 of them, a dozen eggs every day. You're able to feed a whole household, right? You can get by.
Well, I think that's what. See, I don't know. This just came to my head just now, and I could be wrong, but I just think, could it be a possibility that this is? And she did kind of say something along the lines, actually. Could it be a possibility that they want us to go into that fear mode? Go into that vibration, that frequency, to them actually then create it. So instead of going into, I don't know, this is just my. I would love to hear your thoughts about this, but it's like, okay, you know, one of the things that I love about writing down your projects, it's not so much about it's time for your projects to be done. What I love about that is that you're writing down your idea and you're actually thinking about it in a way as if it's your business. And so when you're doing that, now you're focusing all your energy and time into something that brings you joy and happiness. It's going to raise your frequency, and you have to think about, you know, the what can happen, how to do this, what programs do I need, so on and so on. You're creating a business, but you put it on paper. That's number one. But number two, the other thing that I think about this, I'm like, I've been seeing so much fear being put out there, and especially from people from like the, you know, Trump followers, Q followers, and things like that. That the world's ending kind of thingy. So get your generators, get all these things. What just came to my head just now. I'm thinking, could that probably be the problem? And it's maybe let's just try not focusing on that, and let's try focusing on, you know, what can we bring to the table, and how can we do this? Yeah, I don't know. Like,
Well, so this is the balance I'm always trying to strike, right?
okay.
I think it's ignorant not to talk about the problems. I think it's ignorant. Like we have to, but it's also ignorant not to get past the problem to viable solutions. And it'd be one thing if all we did was sit here and talk about it's coming, it's the end of the world, like that. That's dangerous. I think it's dangerous, and it's just irresponsible.
Hmm.
The reality is, these things, the world isn't going to end. The world will continue on, and we are the ones who are going to have to create the place that we want it to be. Right? We have to do that.
Hmm.
So that takes individual responsibility, which everything starts there, right? You have to take 100% responsibility for who you are and what you're creating, but also a collective responsibility. We are responsible for one another, right? And it's a very powerful thing when you realize, okay, I am responsible for my neighborhood, right? I did this with
Hmm.
my sons when they were just little guys, when they were like 4 years old. We were walking in this parking lot and they just threw something on the ground. And so I stopped them and I made them pick up every single paper in the parking lot. Right? I made them pick up every single paper in the parking lot at 4 years old. And I told them, I said, if you don't take care of where you live, don't expect anyone else to. Right?
Mm.
because I wanted them to understand that, because that's kind of how it starts, right? Take care of where you are, right? With yourself. Start with yourself, right? Then
Yeah.
start with your house, then your yard, right? And then the neighborhood, and let that
Mhm.
expand. Now,
Yeah.
was that a optimal moment in parenting? I don't know. I don't know, but that's what in my mind, it made sense, right? It made sense to like teach them that at that time.
Well,
Now, don't get me wrong, I sat there with them cleaning everything up, but you know,
I think it's beautiful. Like actually, when you said that, I thought, yeah, that is true. Because I remember being here in our apartment, and then suddenly I'm like looking at you, going, "What are you doing? You're cleaning it up." And I'm like, "Why? It's like, what are you doing? It's not ours." And you're like, "Because." And you just said the exact same words. And then I remember thinking to myself, going, "He's actually right." So I was like, so I think that's a good thing. It takes, that's something little that can help. And if
so, but here's the thing, right? Does it take? And this is a question. Does it take the small collective acts of kindness of billions of people? Will that do it? Absolutely. That would absolutely change the world. I mean,
mm,
you would just think you get a couple billion people doing random acts of kindness, right? Helping one another out. I mean, this whole world shifts in a heartbeat. In a
yeah.
heartbeat, right? But is that the best solution from here? Or does it take really heroic actions of kind of this not so silent majority, right? The
Well,
silent majority is something you'll hear a lot about, right? The silent majority is the group who's in agreement with taking action, with doing certain things, with conservative beliefs, or whatever it is. That's kind of like the collective. Yeah, we all agree with that, right? Like we all agree murder is bad, right? We all agree like this shouldn't happen. We don't want our water poisoned. I mean, collectively, can't we agree? Like, hey, let's not poison the water, right? Like pretty much as a collective worldwide. I bet you if you were going to grab subjects like and you put a survey out, it said we want everyone to take this survey. Want
mm,
everyone in the world to take this survey. Do you want your water poisoned? Yes or no? The answer would probably be no, like
you would
100%, don't
think.
you think?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you think about it, there's things we all agree on, no matter where you're from. We all agree. Like,
Mm.
we don't want our air poisoned. Like, I need to breathe the air. My kids breathe the air. Like, don't poison the air. That's pretty simple, right? Like, don't poison the food. Let's that's pretty that is pretty simple, right?
Okay.
So
And ones would say, okay, I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Some people would turn around and say, okay, great, but these people are the ones doing it. How do we stop them?
Who are these people?
I don't know, Mr. Alma. That I was just being the
Okay,
third person here.
well, that was a setup. Sorry. Who are these people? These people are doing this at the end of the day, right? I used to say
Hmm.
this when I would talk about the Clintons, for example. Like,
Hmm.
there's this horrible snuff film of Hillary Clinton doing horrible things to a child, right?
Mm.
And I remember getting furious when I couldn't even watch it. Just the parts that I saw, I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
Because what I was
Hmm.
thinking is, where did the child come from? There was somebody in the Secret Service, or a couple guys, and probably a collection of people of somewhere along the line. Somebody took this child from someone, right? She might have been sold by her parents and then taken and given to someone else, another grown up, a responsible adult, a professional of some kind, probably in security, handed off to another security person and escorted into this place in this room where a doctor was present, another politician, uh, I think it's Uma Aberdeen or something like that, both there to participate in the slaughter and torture of this young girl, right? And but along the way, who did it? What about all the guys, the security, the trained security who were there to protect people? Didn't you guys do it? Didn't you take that little girl to this woman? Didn't somebody have responsibility to care for that child, like a parent or a guardian of some kind? Wasn't somebody responsible for that child's safety at some point who just decided, no, here I'll do this for money? or
Yeah.
as a favor, right? Now, I'm sorry, I always use these extreme examples, and I know you don't like that, but I'd rather offend you and have you remember what I'm talking about than have you just be like, oh, that was nice, and forget everything I'm saying, right? Think about it. What you can blame the Hillary Clinton all you want. The fact of the matter is, there was probably 5 or 6 people between her and that child going to her death, right? There was a lot of people along the way who could have stopped it. Be one of those people. That is the call to action. Be one of those people who says, this is wrong. I will not participate. I will not contribute. And tell somebody else and convince them to do the same thing.
Mm.
And then here's the problem. Here's the problem, because I know this happens. I know this for a fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
I is you get in like higher up in the police station or in the FBI, and what happens? They're all corrupt,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
This is the belief,
We
right?
know that.
We sure do, yeah. The higher up you go, they're all corrupt. So who do you tell? Like, you go and tell somebody, and then all of a sudden that's the one who's firing you, right? Now you've
Mm.
lost your job, and now you're being taken out, and you know, and especially when it comes to the Clintons, I mean, nobody has 59 friends who've committed suicide. I mean, I'm sorry, but the Clintons have a lot of suicide friends, right? It's known as the Clinton necktie. They find themselves committing suicide hanging off a door.
Huh.
That's Clintons. That's their trademark for the Clinton cartel.
I did not know that.
Fun
Interesting.
facts. I'm full of fun facts. Yeah. Yeah.
Good little thing for TikTok. Did you
Yeah.
know?
You know, right?
Yeah,
So,
sorry. Continue.
but no, I mean, I'm just
Well,
saying.
okay.
I
Mhm.
understand how we get there. I understand the issue,
Yeah.
right? I understand the solution.
Yeah.
The solution is informed people, the inner formation of knowledge, and the ability to take action with wisdom, right?
Hmm.
We've got this divine wisdom coming into us the first time.
Mm.
So all this inner formation of knowledge, this inner formation of knowledge of this body of attributes and experiences, and me, memories and experiences. We have all these memories and experiences that make up who we are, and now we can take them and put them to work. Right? That
Mm.
would be the use of this divine wisdom that is
Hmm.
now coming into us directly from source.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think now is the time that we spark this collective change in these people? At this point, I would say it's probably the middle management of the cabal.
Mm.
I mean, where do you think the target area is?
Well, when she was talking about, so it was interesting. She was like talking about like, these things are run by the government. And then I thought to myself, okay, well, what would I do in that position? And I thought, okay, well, I would be wanting to work with, somebody in those positions that, like hopefully they can be hearing this and saying, hey, hang on a second, this is what's happening. And then therefore they can take a stand and do what, this truck driver did. And, and take a stand and say, no, I don't know, maybe I'm just naive, but, could it be that we're at, I don't even know what level that is. Do you get what we were talking about this before? Like you can
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
explain this a little bit more than what I can.
No, okay, all right. So, all right. I thought she was going to go. So Laura is much more fun off camera, right? She's very animated and moving. And when she's not on camera, then she gets on camera and she's very proper, right? So she's very entertaining to watch without no. So, anyways, okay. So I think that would be kind of a place to start, which goes back to what I've been talking about. I feel like I keep bringing this up about needs assessment, right? We got to start doing needs assessments on a massive global scale, right? And
Mm,
really dig down to what is needed to survive. What do I need if the lights go out? And I don't mean in a survivalist kind of way, but how about in a dignified? Okay, let's replace these things. Let's create better ways to do them. It's going to take time, and you might be inspired on some level to take this initiative on whatever level. But I would say this: think bigger. Think bigger than what you thought before, right? Don't just think about, like, like, don't think small. Think, how can this idea or how can I contribute to change the world? Right? That's always the point.
Mm.
Right? And then find ways to do it. And I think, the one thing that everybody can do is connect with other people. Connect with other people, and you know what? Be relentless. Be tenacious. Don't stop because people say they don't want to hear about it. You know what? People need to hear about it. Is that the best recipe? I don't know. I just feel like you have to. I mean, you have to. Like at some point, you got to say enough already. You can't be indifferent about this, right? And, and it's not enough to be the this cry. Like I spoke to this guy a few weeks back, and he was just a crotchety old conspiracy realist. I mean, he was right
Wait,
about most things.
you just cut out. Sorry. You spoke to a
I
guy.
said he was a crotchety old man, right? Like, these damn, like everything was,
Sorry, could
negative.
you just do
He,
that again? You just glitched
he
out.
goes,
So do that one more time.
he was like, these damn Democrats, right? Like he was all mad, and he was going off, telling me everything, right? He's
Yeah.
like, you can't trust him. The Federal Reserve, like he threw out like every conspiracy like baseline point. The Federal Reserve, we are not gold backed anymore. Can you believe this? 9/11 was an inside job. Like everything. He was all mad about it, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, all right. So I asked him, so what are you doing? Then he
And
stopped talking,
he
right?
stopped talking.
Yeah, he stopped talking. He's like, it's not my problem. I'm like, well, you're the one talking about it, man. You're the one sitting here, going off, sitting in your bathrobe with your Trump Crocs on, like your Stars and Stripes, Rocky Balboa, bathrobe, fussing and bitching about it, but doing nothing about it.
Okay, so
So
what do you do? Like, what do you do? Because a lot of people are like, well, what do I do? I don't want them to eat babies. No one wants them to do that. So what do? You kind of feel a little bit like, and yeah, you can kind of turn to sauce and and all that kind of stuff. But let's be real here. That is just unacceptable. For me, that's a subject that you just don't touch. That's a subject that by don't touch is like, can we protect them? And we need to figure that out. Before anything. That's what I
we're getting
need
somewhere
to
here.
see. You
Yeah.
know, because that to me is something that I think pulls on a lot of people's heartstrings, and it should, because children are innocent, and in reality, if we're really coming to think about it, so are we. We are babies. We're magical beings. Like we're gonna start doing little shows that we're gonna be putting on TikTok and YouTube and on our Telegram, and then once we get the network back up and running, we'll be putting it on there. But explaining, like, giving you little clips on how to. How to, for example, little remedies that, how to take out AIDA, which is, I don't know. We're
No,
gonna be
no one can see
explaining
you
it.
doing this. No one can see you doing
I can't show it,
She's
but
all,
it's like
she goes, she's doing all this.
help
Like,
me, you're my
I can't translate that. I'm not,
you know what AIDA is. We've spoken about this about
energy. It's taking away bad energy, is what it
no,
says.
no, 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 no. AIDA. It's like when you have like a salt, like I don't know how to explain it, but okay, so it's like you have like a little it hurts, like it's a muscle thing. And
Oh,
a lot of people go to the chiropractor and they don't realize that they could actually just do this one thing with a with
the idea.
with
I, I'm not even sure how to say the word,
newspaper,
let alone describe it. Yeah.
and you do like a cone, and then you like anyways, point was
Set it on fire. Like you set the cone on fire.
yeah.
It's not really something you do at home by yourself the first time.
Well, you explain the benefits of it and everything like that. It's just a little bit hard to explain it right now, and I wanted to get also an expert to explain it properly,
Okay.
before we do anything. But anyways, getting back to
Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, so back on track. So basically, we are identifying some things here that are key components, right? Like, okay, that we can all agree on, right? So, how do we make a collective message connect to the hearts and minds of the entire world, right? So,
mm,
let's talk about things that are in common that we all have. Okay, can we all agree? Don't poison the food, the water, the air,
mhm,
right? What do we need? We need those things, and we need each other. Don't eat the babies. I feel like that's a pretty good one. We can all kind of, hey, can we all get behind that? Do not eat the babies, right? Like, matter of fact, how about protect the children in general?
Yeah.
How about we collectively, this is very important, right? Protect the children. Protect the
Mhm.
children. Let them be kids, right? It's really
Yeah.
important. These are things that pretty much universally we can all get behind.
Yeah.
We can get behind this, right? This is something where you could talk to virtually anyone in any country, anywhere, and we'll all agree on that. So, why are these the most pressing issues? Because these things are happening,
Mhm.
right? So, you have water treatment plants, right? So, water treatment plants that are government run, and I've interviewed a couple of different guys about this, and they're putting toxic levels of fluoride. Now, fluoride is on your toothpaste. If you look at your toothpaste and you have fluoride in it, stop using that toothpaste, right? But in there, you'll see it says, if you swallow this fluoride that's in your toothpaste that you put in your mouth to brush your teeth, if you swallow this, call poison control. So do you honestly think you can put fluoride in your mouth, in your toothbrush and brush your teeth and not swallow any fluoride? Of course not. Of course. Wait, it gets worse. They put fluoride in the water, in the tap water.
Mm.
But the box says if I swallow this, call poison control. What if we as a collective, everyone who has tap water in every country, at least in the United States, I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but every place, call poison control. Everyone call poison control the same day. We'll all do it in the same day. We'll take down poison control. We'll take down the tap water. It'll be a massive problem. And we'll force poison control to address the issue at the source. Will that
Yeah.
work? Probably not, but it would
Okay,
be
but
hilarious.
wouldn't they turn off the water? And what would you do then?
That's now these are the points that Kim was making, right? That because the problem is we need water, absolutely need water,
Mm.
but the water is poisoned. So
Mm.
we got to get back to the source of where this stuff is happening and change the operation there. And you got to think these water plants are not run by thousands of people. You might have 20 people working at a water plant, right? 30 people, 40 at most, right?
Mm.
So how hard is it really to actually go there and petition and say, hey, this is toxic. It's known as a poison. Uh, we've taken a collective survey of everyone in town. We want to take out a water because they only have
You want to
power to
what?
do it
Sorry, you cut out.
and take the fluoride out of the water.
Mm.
I mean, or just don't put fluoride in the water. We'll start there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like from the beginning. Don't put fluoride. Like that's just an example, right?
Mm.
Could we do that? I'd say yes. However, I know someone I spoke to extensively in
Can't.
Arkansas. What? Go ahead.
What if someone that was working there could like fix the water by, I don't know, like,
By not putting fluoride in it.
yeah.
That's the thing. See, that's the thing. It's so like the solution is so simple. I mean,
Yeah.
this is just one example. Think about it here. I'm going to put this out there. This is a really complicated idea. Please stick with me. Pay attention carefully, okay? There's fluoride, which is poisonous. It's actually made from manufacturing waste. It was killing plants and animals as it was seeping down through the river. They identified it as a poison, and they decided we're going to take this poison, capture it in these filters, in these containers, and we'll take it and put it directly in the drinking water for people. Now, I'm not trying to brag here, but I think this is genius. So I want you to pay attention. And look, if you do what I tell you, we can change this problem. And I'm telling you, we can replicate this in every place in the world. Don't do that. That's the solution. Don't put the fluoride in the water. Don't put the fluoride in the water. Does that fix a problem? It sure as hell gets us a lot closer to a solution. It sure, you definitely are.
But wouldn't we need to get to those people? Because surely by now they realize that they're poisoning themselves, right? But then again, they're probably, they
People don't.
know. Actually, it's so funny because once you kind of know, you just don't do it. I heard of someone that was working for Sydney Water, and they were cleaning out the tanks. And when they were cleaning out these tanks, of where Sydney water in Australia is where the water, obviously
The,
Sydney water.
the water in Sydney, Australia. Yeah, exactly. The water tanks in Sydney, Australia. Right. Yeah.
Anyways, point to the story is, sorry guys, I'm tired.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Anyways,
Go ahead.
point to the story is, apparently something happened with that, and it was like, not apparently, it actually did. I think I don't know what to say. I don't want to get in trouble. But anyways, what happened was it's connected to the toilet water. So for like a week, there was an area, and it was pretty good, like a Sydney area was drinking toilet water, and no one knew about it. And people were just drinking the tap water. And I'm like, it's dirty water. And they did not tell anybody. Then they had to clean it out and so on and so on. But no one knew about it. And that was a good area. So that kind of like made me go to this person. I'm like, so no one said anything? They're like, no, nothing. Everyone had to keep quiet and clean it, and that was it. And Bob's your uncle. And it was like, holy moly, what else happens? So like that was just like a little
Yeah.
thing, like years ago. So, you can buy filters, you can do this. And Joanne just put a comment. It's coming up there. You know, she's what do you think about that?
Yeah, Joanne, I think that's a great, great point. So, okay, so getting on to the kind of like we've been talking about kind of the basic facts of this, right?
Mm.
And you know, but this is a spiritual war, right? So we're finally at a place where we have this direct connection with source, and contrary to popular belief, in many ways we were really cut off from God, right?
Yeah.
We were not maybe entirely, right? We always had that spark, divine spark in us. But now, I mean, we have this flow of direct source energy coming into us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to fix everything perfectly, right? But we can voice our needs, so to speak, and just kind of say, look, this is what I need. And
Well,
be open to source. This is what Kim was talking about, a dance with source, right? You're kind of
mm-hmm,
sharing energy back and forth, co-creating something rather than
mm-hmm,
dictating your terms to God, right?
mm-hmm.
Go ahead. You're about to say something.
No, I was just
Yeah.
listening
So,
to you, Mr.
so I like that idea, right? Of kind of keeping this, the all powerful, almighty, omnipotent,
Can't help you there.
omnipotent, omnipotent meaning all powerful, omniscient meaning all knowing, right? Omnifarious meaning of all types, right? This idea of God knowing everything and having the ability to move and do whatever, right?
Mm-hmm,
And this is our biggest advocate, right? So chances are good he knows, okay, well, this is what's the best option, right? But you're gonna have to go
mm-hmm.
with me on this rather than tell me what your plan is, right?
Yeah.
Like I remember this joke. It was you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Right? Like, so when you think about it, it's like, okay, well, so that's something I'm like, okay, let's what does that look like to you? What does it look like to manifest and create with God as a co-creator? What does that look like in a world where we're not, we're just creating a reality, but not being so specific in the way we once thought it had to be,
Mm-hmm,
right? Meaning, like Kim was talking about this, like how we often think I need more money. Well, is that really what you need, or do you need a house,
mm-hmm,
right? Do you need a way to get back and forth to see your family? Do you need superpowers? I don't know. Whatever it is, like what do you actually need? Do you actually need more money, or do you need food, right? And so that was kind of the open ended idea that Joanne was talking about. That Kim was talking about this waltz with source. Be
mm-hmm.
open to manifestation in all shapes and forms, right? You say this
Yeah.
all the time. That's why I'm looking for you to chime in and talk about it at any time.
Well, go, continue
No,
talking.
no, talk about it. I want you to talk about it. Or
Okay.
not, or not. That's
No,
fine.
no, no. No,
so,
because I'm trying to think on my
so
thoughts because I was gonna say something and then you were talking, so I didn't want to interrupt you. And then,
you can
you know,
interrupt me anytime. Go ahead.
I know, and I just think when it comes to we were talking about this prior to the show, and we were talking about how, telling people, well, I need to feed my kids. Can we were talking about that. Do you remember?
Yeah,
Yes.
I remember.
Okay. Okay. Can you elaborate what you were going through? Because perhaps there are other people that are feeling that way too. And then,
Oh yeah. Okay, this is
because
a yeah, that's a good one. Okay, yeah, I forgot. I did say I would probably talk about this. Um, so this description, I have a tendency to get hyper focused on one solution, right? And I'll consider all types of solutions, but when I get it and I feel like this is it, or I think something's a certain way, like I have a tendency I can get very hyper focused on that, right? Because one of the things that's a challenge for me with this situation, right? Or something I'm rapidly overcoming, right? Because I'm constantly examining myself about it, right?
yeah.
Is you are in the midst of a liquidity crisis worldwide. So money has been being drained out of the system, specifically by the global repository or Kim Gogan or the key integrated monetary system or the brand new, newly named golden age AI system. And I want to call it the right thing because Kim
Mhm.
was making up some points about this, right? Like you need to address it the right way, so to speak, because that is the actual system. It's a golden age AI system. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. If somebody
Golden
if
age.
somebody knows the exact way that's said, please correct me. All right, because I want to get it right.
It's
Right?
organic AI.
Organic. Well, organic. It can't be organic and
Or
AI. It's OI.
sorry,
OI.
OI. Yeah,
Organic
OI
intelligence.
or original. That's the
Oh,
other one too. Original. Well, that was what we were, going back and
yeah, going
forth.
back and
Going,
forth. All right.
yeah.
But so what I was saying is the global situation is it is what it is. You have this massive infrastructure, right?
Hmm.
Of businesses, companies, all these things are all cabal controlled.
Mm,
And Kim has been demolishing them, right? So they have less and less and less and less and less. But we are reliant on those things. We are reliant on those things, right?
mm,
And one of the things is the financial system because there's less and less money, and then
mhm,
your hierarchy of people that have been allowed to have money, right? So your deep state cabal, super rich, whatever, even their money's diminishing. So when it comes to actually doing things, right, like getting land or getting like we got to control things from the mine to the market,
mhm.
right? So we need to control every step of the way because all they have to do to
By
eliminate
we, you mean the people,
the
right?
people, right?
Okay.
We, as in the people, the sovereign collective of
Yeah.
Imagineers and visionaries here listening today, right? So imagine you have to control every aspect from the mine to the market,
Mhm,
right? Because all they have to do is say you need 5 products to create one product,
mhm,
right? And that's what's going to get your product to market. And it has to be mined. Then you have to get it to assembly or manufacturing. It needs to
mhm,
be processed, then manufactured, and then fine tuned, then labeled, then packaged, then sold, right?
mhm.
All these different things. All they have to do to completely disrupt your incredible invention of whatever, the smidget, right? To take the smidget out of population and never work again, all they have to do is remove one aspect of your operation.
Mhm,
And they make it so you need this one component and you can only get it from this place because that's the only place that mines, the smidget manufacturing part. And now you're out of business.
mhm,
So I struggle with that a little bit because we have to find ways around these things, right?
mhm,
Or use different things or create different things. And we have to get to a point where we're in control of these components. And in reality, I believe the actual deed and ownership to these things lie with the in the office of the guardian, right? These
mhm,
are there's actual the actual deeds and trusts and all these things, the ownership of this, they do belong to the people, but how do you get that so it's actually in the hands of the right people working on the right things? And that's the big challenge we have because
mhm,
we have to find a way to get past it. So I struggle with that a little bit. because that
Okay.
what makes sense to me is you need money to flow for that to happen, right? For people to be able to buy land, buy mines, buy property, buy machinery, right?
Mhm.
But then you turn around, you're buying it from them, from the other side, right?
Mhm.
So even if that happened, a big flow of money came out, then you turn around, now you're giving your money back to them
Yeah.
to buy their stuff. And ultimately, they're going to go make more of the same thing while you're trying to create a solution to make something better.
Mhm.
Right? So this is where like like the analysis paralysis comes in, right? Because I deeply consider these things often and look for solutions constantly.
Mhm.
So how do you overcome those things, right? Because we want to
Mhm.
think bigger. And in a sense, we got to think bigger by thinking smaller, right? We got to we
What do
got
you
we got to
mean? What do you mean by that? That you got to think bigger by thinking smaller.
well, we got to think kind of, and this isn't an exact solution, but we got to think from the inside out. We got to create things from ourselves to our home and then allow it to expand until we can get to a place where we can impact others in a way that's effective and
Mhm.
safe, right? Because you could have money come in today from, say, from the global
Source.
repository, and you had, you know, say billions of dollars or trillions of dollars come into flooding into the market, and there's say a million people got $1 million or $10 million or $20 million. Well, those people would be immediately targeted and protect. And they could be right. They could be immediately targeted if they weren't safe, if the deep state wasn't kept at bay,
Mhm.
and that's what they've been doing, right? So the whole idea is how do we use this energy, right? So if I stay focused on that solution, it's very discouraging because I need in my mind, I would need that money to create, right? So
Mhm.
this is where we have to get outside of those parameters and stop
Yeah.
limiting source and how he can
Yeah.
provide in what ways he can do it, right?
Yeah.
Which to me that's a little bit of a struggle because I've analyzed this many for years and years and years and years, right? I've gone back and forth and over it, right? And like, well, we need this. Even Kim has said it's either going to take an act of God or a lot of money. Well, I think
Well,
it takes both. So
yeah. Well, the other thing is like I've been speaking to a few people in regards to their projects, and they've been calling me and asking me for some advice and things like that. So we've been like going back and forth, and one thing I've been saying to them is like think bigger, you know, touch the stars and beyond. That's number one. Number two, think of it as your investor is source,
God, yeah,
your
so
creator. And when you are going to put, because in every business plan you must say, where's this money coming from? How are you going to do it? Well, first you're going to say, okay, maybe it's donations. Maybe, you're going to be putting things in there, you know, logically. A lot of people are going, oh, CARE's going to give it to me. And I'm like, well, you're limiting. I had this conversation with this one person. I said, you're limiting yourself by saying just care. One, you don't really know. And I'm sorry, but this is the reality right now because we don't know what Kim is doing. So at any moment, it will be care or maybe it'll be something else. We just don't know. But the only reason why I say that, and I say this, is because Trump care. That's where I'm like, oh, but that's where I say, don't just put care. You know, put an investor that you'll probably end up having the money because Source just showed you the way. Going on TikTok and you've created these videos and now it's going viral, and now you've just made TikTok your bitch and they're like paying you back. Sorry. Sorry, I've always said that. I've
oh,
always wanted to
that's
make
a great.
YouTube, Google, all of these my bitch and go, you know what? You're going to be paying me one day. And that's what's happened. That's what once you kind of like you learn. Yeah.
I'm just agreeing with you. Keep going.
Once you kind of learn what people are doing, and now with this whole TikTok thing, you know, they can't stop it. So, like, go out there, go onto TikTok, create little videos. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be literally something, your reaction with someone else of another video and it's going around and you start to pump it out with a lot of videos out there. They just cannot stop it, and the more people doing it, and there is a lot of people doing that, it's just going to overflood TikTok, it's going to overflood YouTube, it's going to whatever it is. And guess what, at the end of the day, more people that watch it, the more you actually get paid for that as well. So you could do that as a side hustle. Is that what you call it, side hustle? you know
Yeah, side hustle. People
there's
say that.
different but there's different ways. Like your video could go viral and now they're paying you. So you just don't know. So by not putting something there and just leaving it as, you know, I just know, it's here. It's now. You
Right.
believe it, you see it, and there's other things too. Like there could be a reason. It's probably source your creator doesn't want it to happen at that time. It could be that you had to learn something, could be that you needed to heal something. But when it comes to manifesting, I feel like right now is a time of, okay, these are the issues. Let's go into think outside the box and let's find solutions. And then this is where we're like, okay, creator, God, whatever you want to call her, him, show me and guide me. And you will be amazed at what you will start to receive, and it will tell you you will hear, you will feel, someone will talk to you, it will come in your way. It just will happen. They have tried to suppress humanity for such a long, 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 long time. And you've got to remember, we're dealing things with also on a soul level too. So you've probably got things on a past level as well, that you're remembering, that or that you need to heal, or this different things to this. You just have to go within first, and now this is where the magical part is now, is that you get to trust yourself and experiment. By me saying experiment is like, have fun with it. You're now having a relationship with your creator. And, you know, when you first start a relationship, you're not just going to jump in and be all like, hi, how you doing? I don't know. But for me, I'm going to be a little bit like, I'm going to get to know you. I want to get to know you. And then vice versa. You've got to build a trust. And then this
Okay.
comes with other beings as well. Because, you know, perhaps there's other beings on this planet, like werewolves or whatever, that are also ready to fight and go,
Werewolves or
let's
whatever.
take back our
Not to be too
power.
specific, but
Huh?
werewolves are real. But I'm just saying, that's not to be too specific. Yeah.
But then, like, I just, I feel like there's, when it comes to talking to source, you're right. We can get frustrated. We can say, do your job. You can, and I do. I get angry with source. Like, I will say, enough, you know, do what you said. And then it's funny because then I'll see something, like, for example, something will happen and I'll then sit back after they've told me take the emotions out of it. I then see that, these people that I love are now bonding because this situation has allowed both of them to come together and talk and have a wonderful conversation. And even though that situation was sucky and I couldn't breathe, and God told me to do something, and I was like, okay, I do that, but I can't breathe right now. Like, okay, I gotta trust you. I see it's dark. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm trusting you. You're telling me to go this direction. Are you kidding me? But okay. One thing in this journey, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of people can say the same thing, like, it has been one of, for me, it's like, I like to have control of myself. I like to be in control. I like to know what I have to do and do it. I don't like to rely on anyone. And then God was like, yeah, we'll see about that. I'm going to take everything.
I know. Like I told
and,
you, you want to make God laugh. Tell him your plans.
and then you have to just go and say, okay, I trust you. And it literally started off with a song. And from then on, another confirmation, then another confirmation. And then you start to go, hang on, if that worked, what else can I do? That's why when she was talking about how just ask for food, once you realize, oh, I asked for food and now someone knocked on my door and gave me food. If I could do that, how, maybe I can do something else. And you know that it works. You are going to do it again. And then next time, it's going to be something bigger and better, and it's just going to keep going because you now know it works. And the reality is, this planet, things don't happen so quickly. Can you imagine if things happen so quickly? Like, People, yeah,
Yeah, because people are not entirely informed about what is best for them or
that's
what is even the
right.
best option on a lot of things.
That's
So
right.
the idea of instantaneous manifestation is certainly possible, realistic, and something that I'm sure will happen. But if we were constantly doing that right now with our current understanding of the way
It,
things work,
but Mr. Rao, it does happen. For the things that need to happen, it will happen instantaneously. I think I said that right. Like click. Like,
yeah, and I agree. So the power of creating, you know, that's always. I know we always call it manifestation, but what you're doing is. So I love this example of the dance, right?
mhm,
This, you know, a dance is something where you're communicating with your partner to move in a certain direction and kind of going with the energy, right? And then there's
mhm,
different ways to dance too, right? Where you're both just kind of appreciating the rhythm and the beat and the sound of the music, and you can
mm,
just move your body freely and get to that point where you dance better, right? And different ways. So it's a beautiful example, I think, Gogan used to explain this, right? Because if we're working with source and
mm,
and you know, God knows your heart, right? And the universal language of the multiverse is feeling, you know. So, genuinely putting out like, okay, this is how I feel about it. This is what I see happening. This is why this is so important.
mm,
And however that looks to you, please bring that into my existence in the best and safest possible way for me to thrive in all ways. And all the people that I touch and talk to, every person I
mm,
communicate with, please allow them to thrive and allow that to be something that permeates. And having that attitude and disposition, like there's just something about it that's really powerful, right? Because people are always more likely to help you when you come with that kind of an attitude, just in general, right? People are more, rather than saying, you need to do this, right?
yeah.
So, and like I watched this, there was this thing years ago, and it was about, do you get better service if you complain more, and how do you complain, right? And it was kind of talking about how people will call up and complain about something like, they didn't get their toppings on their pizza, and they'll call up and be like, this is bullshit. I hate this place. I can't believe you. I need my sausage, right? And like, I have a sausage and pepperoni. What's wrong with you? Right? And they're complaining and they're belligerent. And so the person on the other end of the phone is less likely to help them. However, if they call up with a little bit of just an ounce of humility, like, hey, listen, this came to my house, it didn't come through right. Could you help me out? I really want to. I was looking forward to this. No, I don't have it. And I didn't get the right food. You know what? It's a completely different energy. And you immediately want to help that person, right? Now imagine
Mhm.
how many times we're, like people are driving down the street with road rage, right? Yelling at people. Do you think anybody cares that you're yelling in your car, right? Going off? It just makes an environment more dangerous, right? But the more we approach things with, an absolute appreciation and gratefulness about every experience we're going through, and always looking to see, what am I learning from this experience, right? That's kind of how I see it with this waltz with source,
Mhm.
is being with source and just being like, look, this is what I think, this is what I see right now.
Okay,
But
so
I
this is the sorry to interrupt you there, but see, what if Source provides you, the blueprints of codes? Because we're systems, right? Where our body is a system. We've spoken about this before. And so, what if God says, okay, boom, they download you a bunch of codes? One thing that I thought, I'm like, well, they could be downloaded, you know, why don't
Yeah,
you
say it.
explain why don't you explain the computer theory that we were
Okay.
saying? And it was like,
So
mhm,
so downloading these divine codes, and
that's
keep
right.
me on track, make sure like this, I think this is a really profound point, right? Because, you know, if anyone heard Kim talk about the mustard seed, right? So she went to source and actually went to kind of the center of source, and he showed her the mustard seed that held the the blueprints and the access codes to rebuild everything, to
Mhm,
terraform everything from scratch, right? So it gave some validity actually to that scripture where the Messiah says, if you had the faith of a mustard seed, you can move mountains, right? So what is faith? Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It's the intangible factor of belief, confidence, and surrender, in a sense, to something bigger than yourself, right? So, what you were talking about kind of expanded on this. I thought it was such a beautiful point. Like, so we're downloaded constantly with new information, right?
Yeah, so
Am I saying it right?
our system, so our person runs on codes. That's a reality.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
just think. Yeah. Okay. So it runs on codes. So they have been programming us a certain way for us to be harmed. Okay. So we've been coming into this for lifetimes and eons of times. So what's happened is, we've had a little bit of things happen to us, right? And we've got, one lifetime has fractured this and we've come back. So really what we're really fixing is our mind, body, and soul. So let's just say a computer, it has a virus. So in one lifetime, something's happened. Now your system, your soul has a virus inside of you. They've created it and then it's just lingered on into this lifetime. So now we're in this lifetime. So we kind of, am I explaining it right?
Oh, keep going. You're doing great. You're doing great.
Okay.
Yep.
So this lifetime you come and you're like, okay, all of these things. Okay, so one of the things that I remember back in 2015 that they kept talking about reprogramming. And I remember saying, I remember talking about this and people would be already like, "Ugh, you can't talk about reprogramming." I don't know how else better to explain this, but reprogram or rewire your mind, your body, your soul. This is where we're at right now. Because they have programmed us, and keep the system that we are now connected to, which is the golden age system. Now you've confused me. I've
Yeah,
got to
it's a
look at
gold age system, right?
my. so, so now that we're connected to that, as sovereign beings, we would have to agree to it or accept it or something. There's something there, okay? However, let's just say you get downloaded with a bunch of codes because that's what's going to be happening. We're going to go back to our original form. Yes,
So it's like an installation on a computer.
that's
Like
right.
when you download a new program, right?
That's right. But wait, you've just downloaded the program because this is what happens. You get this download. What do I do with it? Okay. Well, could it be, and this is just a thought, go find out, could it be that you need to activate, rejuvenate? So it's like as if you get a brand new computer or you've just rebooted your computer. What's going to happen? Or you've just downloaded something on your computer. Let's just go with that.
That's right.
You downloaded something on your computer. Great. It's now in your download files. But if you don't press it or initiate it, it's going to be in your download files. It's just going to be there. What if you have to download it and then go next, 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 next? And then that's how it happens. Because many people will end up getting these things and they don't actually activate it or they don't, they're like, what do I do with this? Ask. But one of
Yeah.
the things that I started seeing was perhaps you need to activate it. Because the one thing that I love is that we're magical beings, that we can actually rejuvenate ourselves, that we can activate our stem cells. There are things out there that can assist us 150%, especially with what we're dealing with right now, because it's, there's so much pollution, there's so much, we've got heavy metals out there that we need to clean. However, but we have the ability to just switch that on by commanding ourselves. When I say use these things to, start the modem, but then afterwards you don't have to have them. What you can do is then say to your body, activate my stem cells, and that will continuously happen. You are going to be reprogramming your mind, your body, your soul. You have to do this in this time. In that, there might be things that come up that are glitches. It's the best way to explain it too, which the glitches are like, okay, maybe there's like a stop point. What do you do now? Do I need to initiate this? Do I need to forgive it? Do I need to go with it? Do I need to forgive myself? What is it? Or is it a program that you don't want to you just don't want to let go of because you have a payoff with it? Because ground command and others can be doing their job, but it requires us as a human sovereign being to accept it, to do the
To
job,
activate it. Yeah, I
to
think.
activate it,
Yeah. So it's like, you get some new program on your computer,
transmute.
you install it, it's already there,
Hmm.
right? Now you have to initiate the command, right? The command response. Now, I like this idea. I did this a couple weeks ago. I had a lot of things on my mind, and I went into my other job, and I was just focused. I had like a 45-minute car ride. So I was just focused with Source, and I'm like, just remove any obstacles in my way from accomplishing what I need to do today, right? And everything in my field seemed to just coordinate after that to give me the best possible outcome. I think I closed a couple of deals that day. I had new money come in that I wasn't expecting. You know, I was just happier throughout the day. And it was because I really didn't know exactly what I needed, but I activated this kind of like, hey, I know you know. And I
Mm,
love that idea that we have this really advanced kind of programming, this really advanced level of access to source or to God,
yeah,
that we can just say, hey, my life is in your hands. I'm not sure exactly what to do here. I'm willing to do my part. I'll go do whatever I have to do. I'm just not sure exactly what to do. So can you just please open the doorway? And what I'll do is I'll follow the path that you lay before me,
yeah.
right? And activate whatever it is that you already gave me, right? Because like, yeah, I see this
Transmute,
all. What's that?
activate, transmute. So transmute darkness to light. Transmute whatever that word or whatever that feeling is to something positive, and then seal it off.
Yeah. And I kind of look at these as two different things. Like, like when you're removing something, that's one thing, and you're, transmuting it from dark to light. That's one thing. But I like what you were talking about with the activating, like when you download something, because look, sometimes you go to sleep, or you can be wide awake, and all of a sudden you'll be like you just know that you just got a flash of information, but you don't know what it is, how to access it,
Hmm.
right? Or what to do with it.
Or yeah, because what happens is sometimes we need to ask for, understanding of what was given to us as well. And sometimes the other thing is too, I do this a lot as well. It's like, hang on a second, I just heard this, I just saw this, they're showing me this. I'm going to feel like a nutcase right now if I say this to anyone. Or I'm going to feel, and that is true. And thank God I have you and amazing people around me that I can say, okay, listen, I'm going to say this because I need to get it out. So this is what happened. This is what they showed me. This is what they told me, or whatever it is. So I don't feel like I'm going insane. And then, but that happens
Thank
to
God
you.
you have me. After I get triggered first, then realize what you're talking about, then listen. Just saying, because I'm not always the best at that. I'm not always the best at that.
Well, I think it's a journey, and I think we need to be compassionate and understanding that everyone gets, everyone comes to the party at different times. So one thing I've always said to my family, I'm like, it doesn't matter when they come to the party as long as they came. And when they're there, all you have to say is welcome, welcome. That's it. Because what's going to happen is they already feel like that they're wrong, or that they come in, they're like, oh shit, this person was right. That's already a kick in the stomach, you know, because, we're always right. No, but, they're already doing that. Instead of making them feel worse, then go, hey, it's all good. Let's, start all over again. Let's do this. Sometimes we just need to show
let's
compassion and
let's start
understanding.
all over again. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
people, we all have things that we just have to be understanding with one another. And look, I'm a big believer in rainbows and butterflies. I love that. I love to be in my Tinkerbell fairyland, and I think that's okay because I think there's a lot of people out there that are really negative, and I like to think
So
yes,
to explain that, what she's talking about is she believes that the world can be ideal.
yes,
That these, a lot, there's a lot of discouragement. Well, that's not real life. That's not real world. But and I believe that too. I believe the world can be exceptional in all ways, and believe the world is exceptional in all ways. And it's what you make of it, and that life.
Right.
She says rainbows and butterflies. Of course, rainbows and butterflies mean it's magic. The world is
Yes.
magic, and you are a magical part of it, and you can have a magical interaction with other people. Right? That's kind of what I just want to
Yes.
expound on that because I think it's a good point you're making. Sorry, carry on. So you believe in rainbows and butterflies?
And I think I know that it can happen, but it also does come with, we have to kind of come together and not be so triggered and kind of be a third person when whatever situation, put yourself in a third person. I always say, be the third person, understand the person. What they know it's a little bit triggering to them or trigger me. I'll say, hey, listen, I need you to listen with your heart right now, not with your ears. Whatever it is. You're just giving that person like, hey, heads up. No, you're wonderful. You really are. You are wonderful. And so my
I want to say right now, I'm not triggered. You're triggered. I'm
be gentle with one another,
just totally kidding. Totally kidding. Yes. Oh, yeah.
but I think that's it's really important for that. However, we can create a better world. We just have to do it together, number one. But number two, you got to trust in oneself. You have to trust in you. You have to believe in you first. You know, I didn't bet on you. I didn't bet on Kim. I bet on myself, and I think everyone should be doing the same thing and saying, you know what? At the end of the day, I have this connection, that I don't understand it. Ask the questions, connect, actually go out in nature a little bit more, listen to more music. We watch so much TV or TikTok or whatever it is, and it's making us dumber. Why do they do that? To distract us from what we really need to do, which is our job. And our job is right now is create the world that we desire for oneself. My world is probably different to Stephen's world or Sophia's world. But I want to be happy. I desire to be happy, and I'm going to do it this way. And so you have to start with yourself first, and then it will just happen everywhere else. And I know that sounds like, great, cool. But first do it with yourself. And you will see that doors will just open up. You will start hearing things. You will see things. Things will just fall on your lap. When we were going through money issues, you know, I remember coming to America, and I'm thinking, holy moly, how are we going to do this? Things were coming in our way, and I was like, hey, let's do this. And that song came on, and I kept
So
hearing that.
the song she's talking about is it's Jackson 5. I'll be there for you.
Yeah, that
Is the,
one.
the song, and the way the song starts is you and I must make a pact, and we
That's
will
right.
take salvation back.
That's
Just
right.
call my name, and I'll be there.
That's right.
So this song, every time Laura would have a concern or an issue, all of a sudden the song would start playing out of nowhere, as if
Oh,
God was
no,
just
no, no.
there to tell her.
It was 3 o'clock in the morning in Australian time. And we were discussing, should I come to America? And I was like, hey, is it the time? How are we going to do this? So on and so on. And then Australian time, and I walked outside and I put my feet on the grass and I just said, please give me the answer with clarity. Even though I knew my heart and everything was telling me I have to get on that plane and I need to buy that ticket, and no one can force me. It's my decision, but I need to be able to do it. But I was scared. There was a lot of things that I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. This song came on and I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to buy the ticket. I didn't buy the ticket. The next day, I was telling my parents because I thought, okay, I need to talk to my parents now. I have to ask permission because I'm South American. I have to ask permission. Hey, I'm 32 years old, but may I go? And when that happened, that song started playing in the background really, really softly. I didn't even know the music was on. And I heard it. And I was like, whoa, okay. And then That night, I ended up paying for it. I knew that I just needed that, "It's okay, you can go." And I did, and then that song kept happening, and it was just over and over, no matter what. If there's something, there was a situation with money, when all these things had happened, I was like, "Okay, what do we do? Please show me, guide me, tell me." And I would hear a little voice, and they said, "Call so and so." And I called that person. That person said, "Why didn't you call me before? You know." Well, God told me to call you, so I'm calling you right now. If you,
Right on, right
yeah,
on.
you
So
really,
basically, what you're talking about is listening to what in the Bible they call the still small voice. That is the voice of God within you that's constantly guiding
yes.
you. And when you look for answers, when you look to God for that, you have that kind of trust or source or the universe. When you're looking for it, there's a responsibility, just like a father. If a child is looking to a father or mother for guidance, the father or mother is really responsible to make sure they guide that child or give them what they need, right? So when you realize we're just children to source, right? Well,
What if we're a particle of source? He's broken off his consciousness every single he has. Every single person. And really, in reality, you just have to become one with your creator so you can go back, not go back home, but this, what if there's something to do with that?
yeah, I mean, yes, I think that's true. I mean, I just think those terms are too generic. I mean, like, yes,
Okay.
we're all an extension of source. We like people say
Well,
oneness, but it's like, well, what does that mean? Being a giant androgynous blob of nothingness with God doesn't appeal to me, right? So I always think, and I'm not saying that's what you're saying. What I'm saying is it deserves further clarification. Like,
okay.
yes, are we an extension of God? Absolutely, absolutely an extension of God. Well, does that mean that we're looking to God within us? I think so. Looking to God for guidance, looking for direction, for you know fulfillment, for manifestation, for creation. I think all that's true. But I think every one of those things it deserves attention to really explain, draw out, and make sure it makes sense, so that it makes sense to you. I mean, that's what I think. This is
Mhm.
my personal
I think we're
opinion.
just we've been programmed a certain way that this way of living, it's hard for the psychic to understand. But if you really just listen with your heart and really feel the energy, you would be amazed how many things actually do speak to you, do talk to you, I guess you would say. It,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
trees, the nature, you know, sometimes the reason why I got turned off meat before was because when I was cutting the meat, I could feel the energy of the meat and I just could not eat it. And it's not like, and the only reason why I was like, I just couldn't eat it. And I just listened to my body. I was like, I can't, I just cannot do this right now. Now, I'm not vegetarian or anything like that, but that does happen. Everything is energy. So for me, when I say you are one with your creator, it's starting to go back to your Christ consciousness. Like it really does go back to your original form. You have to change. Humans have been um, damaged. Humans have been altered. Humans have been experimented on. Your DNA has been changed, and they did it. Even you could be really, really healthy, but it didn't matter. The world you live in, it just happened. So you have to go back there. And when you go back there, you'll start to see that you've been lied to for a very, 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 very long time. It's not as it seems. You know, we really need to kind of get out of this is it and kind of go, okay, I am prepared for anything that's going to be from my creator. It's so funny right now because of this energy and all these amazing things that are happening, we just can't see it. Things are happening rapidly. That a portal might open, or you've accidentally opened up a portal yourself, because we are portals. You accidentally open up a portal and now they've tried to jump in, but guess what? Boom. They've now taken it and taking them back to source straight away. You know,
Okay, so let's here. So these things, let's give them a practical application. Everything you just said. Okay, so for a portal, could we potentially be looking to source to bring in knowledge on what we might need to do to,
wisdom.
I don't know, we were talking about water or
Hmm.
food. These are
Yep.
all things we could basically be looking to source to
Because it.
God
Mhm,
to bring into us in
that's
this way,
right.
right?
Now, it doesn't mean that it might not come in your third eye. You know, you might be meditating and you see nothing. But then, suddenly you're watching a video. Suddenly you'll just get an idea come in your head. That Go with it. Test it out. Go research it. That idea is coming in for a reason. You know, that's where it's like, if at that moment you're asking for something, whatever it is, and you don't get the answer, then that's okay. Perhaps the answer is with someone else. Someone else will be, on YouTube talking about it, a TikTok video, a song, someone walking on the streets, your friend, someone will just call you randomly and say whatever, and you'll get the answers. You just have to trust and you just have to go with the flow. That's where Kim's saying dancing, because there has to be a flow. It's that thing. Remember that. What's that?
The toroidal field, the actual path of the toroidal field, isn't exactly what they show. It actually looks more like the Celtic symbol for good luck. Is how the actual energy flows to creation.
Hmm.
And Kim's been talking about this too, how the way that creation used to work was E equals MC squared, which basically required that we needed darkness to create. And now it's T times V over something.
You have to.
I can't remember. It's like it's like velocity over something, but I can't remember the exact formula because
Mhm.
I always get it wrong. But I'm sure somebody in the chat will throw that up there, right? But the idea is that now you can create from pure light. Right? So if we're creating from light,
Yeah,
so that means we would have good intentions, we have good sources, we have good access, and nothing but good will come from what we intend to do, right?
that's right.
And that should actually be our expectation, because a lot of times our thought process is it's going to be a grind, it's going to be this way. Maybe not. Why can't it just be easy? The best things in my life that I've ever seen happened almost by second nature, right? Things that just happen all the time. So I think there's a power to that. And I would like to give people kind of in their mind all of this stuff. It's not a separate topic. What Kim was talking about was we need to step up.
Mm.
People need to step up now. So if what you need to do is access that inner spiritual knowledge and look to source, do that. If what you need to do is go out and create the next whatever, eh, do that. And let's find a way to get around these things so that we can actually create the world that we're looking to live in. And I think what you're talking about, Laura, is that exact thing, right? Is that connection to source is where that really begins, where we'll get the guidance we need, the knowledge we need, and look for it in everything, right? I
Yeah.
love in the new Karate Kid, Jackie Chan, he says, I see kung fu in everything. Right, and he talks about the motion of the snake and then the motion of the crane, and he's like, and he just sees kung fu and everything because it's not just a martial art; it's a lifestyle, right? So I love that idea, not about kung fu per se, but you should look for God in everything. Look for God in
Yes.
everything. God's
Be
constantly
grateful.
talking to you. And be
Yeah.
grateful and expect that too.
Yes.
I find that when I expect God to talk to me, His voice becomes a lot louder.
Yes.
That's what I feel. So.
Yes, because okay, it's like when you are just happy and more positive, just more things, you attract that more to you. If you wake up and you're like, oh, this today's gonna be an amazing day, it's gonna be like that. It
Oh,
just
really?
well,
Yeah. Yeah,
it,
I
it
totally
it's
do.
true.
Totally do.
We
I
don't want to
totally do.
hear it, but it is true, and we all have those times. And forgive yourself when you do have that day. That you cannot do your hair because you just, I'm just not feeling well today. Okay, great. Don't worry. Just the show goes on. Find the positives in everything. I know that sounds really great. Thank you so much. But that's how you start. You start
Yeah.
there and you start with yourself. Go,
I think I like that. I like saying it this way better.
go.
Find the value in everything, because some things aren't always, they don't feel positive in that moment. But if you can
Mhm.
find the value
Yeah.
later, you'll get something positive out of it. That's kind of, so I think finding the value in hard times, and still finding ways to be grateful, finding the value in awkward situations or whatever it is. And if you find the value in it, it'll end up being something positive that you can draw on later. And maybe, and keep that as the memory. I remember why this was positive, right? It doesn't matter what it is. And I think that
Or
really opens the door.
well, the same time too, when we're healing, sometimes I go through whatever it is. So let's just say there's a situation that I need to, I I get to choose to forget it. Sometimes we think that we have to hold on to a bad memory. It doesn't always necessarily mean that. Sometimes it's okay to alter that. So when, for example, something happens and it's really bad, well, then you kind of go, okay, well, that was bad. It did hurt me. This person was disrespectful. This person did this. Okay, what do I do? What did I need? And then the other thing is like, what did I learn from this? How did I grow from this? Or perhaps, I'm
That's the biggest
going,
one for me is what did I learn from this? I'm very big on that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just to prepare you for another situation that you're going to then go, oh my goodness, how am I going to deal with this? You're going to remember that time and go, I survived then. And I'm damn right going to survive now. So guess what? Bring it on. So you kind of go, like, you start to get your little sassiness with that because you've already gone through that. So that's
Yeah.
probably your lesson. It's like, no, did I die? No, you didn't. You're fine. It freaking hurt, but get back up. You can do this. You're a big girl. You're a big boy. Maybe it's that.
Yep. I totally agree. All right,
Anyway,
I'm ready to wrap this up. Are you good?
I
Anything else you
am.
want to share? Okay. All right, everybody, please, you have an assignment. Think of how you can change the world. Find a meaningful way that you can contribute, whether it's in your home or in your neighborhood or in yourself. Please find a way that you can contribute in a meaningful way and share it with us. Please connect with us so we can make this Sovereign Collective something powerful. And let's actually take responsibility instead of being indifferent about these things, instead of being apathetic. Let's actually take responsibility for what the world is, what it's been, and what it's going to be when we actually get involved. So my name is Stephen Rao. This is the Life Force Network. Let's go change the world.